Hello everyone. Hey Konrad,
Hello,
how are you
hello. Hi.
doing?
Awesome. Winter is
Hopefully
there.
we're live, right?
Yes,
Hopefully we're
hopefully.
live. And sorry for the little delay, but we supplied each other with a hot tea to survive through this
Exactly.
icy winter times. Let us know if you can hear us, if you can see us, and as usual, also maybe drop a line from where are you watching us, because we try to reach out to as many people as we know in our chains of friends and followers and people who we know from the web.
All
And it would
family
be
watching, everyone.
yeah, our wives and our family, please stop spamming on chat. But please let us know from where are you watching us, because it would be really great information for us to begin with. What we are doing here, Konrad? Why we are here?
I have no idea.
Me too.
Yeah. The goal is just, I believe, as far as I remember, to talk about why and what it is to have a technical personal brand, right?
Yes,
Do
that's
we need
correct.
to write some silly videos on TikTok? Right, that's right.
Yeah, or pictures of food, or maybe our setups every day to share
Yes.
and
Food
things like that. But yeah,
food forming programs in various languages, Java, from carrots, for example, or something. That's an idea.
yeah, that might be one of the topics that we'll of course start with. But yeah, maybe let me share a quick context of this channel, why we are here also, because the Busy Programmer was made to address these questions, and I needed someone or something to push me to do some more of this. And thanks to Konrad and some ideas flying around, we've made it, and we are just starting. So there's nothing else than this video on this channel, but there might be and there will be a lot of other content for you busy programmers and people from the IT industry who will help us, hopefully, and again, fingers crossed, to address some of the issues and share our experience with you based on whatever we've accomplished, done, or not yet do in our careers and lives in general.
Right,
Is that correct, Konrad?
Yes, that's because of me, in short words.
Yeah. So yeah, straight to the point then. Please, again, let us know if you can hear us and see us. In the meantime, Konrad was so professional that he even prepared some slides for this particular
Exactly.
reason. So we
I
can
cannot.
start from the slides, and then we can switch to the real questions and your questions as well, because this is a Q&A in overall. So let's go.
Yeah, that's the title slide, very professional one. I was choosing colors for a long time, but I decided to make it black and white simply. So why in house? I'm Konrad Kokosa, as Marcin has introduced me, and we are here together to talk about it. The agenda is pretty simple because few weeks ago, as far as I remember, we make this a survey on social media to talk about what do you think about personal brand for technical people in general, and we received very interesting results, so thank you for that. And we have some insight. What do you think about it? What bothers you? What you have in mind, and maybe some doubts about it and questions. So we will be talking about that, some questions from the survey, because we don't have enough time for all of them, but they are happily they are aggregating in some more general concepts and problems. But we also would like to invite you to ask questions now live, because it's idea of having you here, because we really rely and hope on your feedback. We want, based on our experience, talk a little about this technical personal brand thing, and we want to know what do you want to know. Simply, we really count on your feedback, right?
Yeah,
So the
correct.
more questions, the better, simply. So that's the agenda, and the whole thing should take like 1 hour, right? We haven't agreed on that, but that's probably typical thing. So and this will be also available as a recording. So if you have something so important that you won't be able to continue till the end, you can always return to that. So Without further ado, a slide about me. I'm a .NET developer. I was a .NET developer for years, living and making it as a full-time job. But more and more, I decided to go into this direction of being a freelancer and trainer and consultant and speaker. And that's the whole experience in this area of technical personal brand. And this all ended in these various sets of activities that you see here. For example, I wrote this book, which is a big one, the biggest one book in .NET, probably. No, there are bigger, but at least it is one of the top in that context. Also, all this building technical brand ended in having a company which is about things like meetups, conferences, making trainings and courses. So .NETOS, we have co-founded .NETOS with two friends of mine. And also I was awarded Microsoft MVP. Also, I have many crazy ideas, like maybe let's write and make a card game about programming, because why not? And I also have a blog and I have a Twitter and so on and so on. So that's all about me. Like currently, I'm not a full-time employed writing software, but I'm more seeing myself as a consultant that is involved in various projects that are interesting. And I have also these other activities like driving a company. Now I'm starting another company. So a lot of time still, it takes a lot of time. That's all about me. Maybe now you, Marcin.
Yeah, I was thinking that you will say that I have a lot of time, but that's obviously not the truth. But yeah, that's probably the hardest part of all the presentation today, to describe the exact role for each other of us. So my name is Marcin Zajkowski. I'm also having different hats and different roles in the various areas, but most recently, and for about almost a year, I became a country manager of the agency called Novisel. It's a global agency where I joined to be a leader and team leader, and also the solution architect, which is my main involvement on the UK market with the UK's department of Novisel. But I also grow a team in Poland. I used to be a .NET developer as well. This is from where I know Konrad, and we've been attending a lot of similar meetups and conferences all together in Poland and all over the world. So I stopped writing code at some point, and I started to analyze how the code can be built, and I let it to be done by better people and better programmers than myself. And I became also a CTO in Novisel Norway, department where I helped the team grow and also to help the team to maintain the quality and achieve their goals. I also have a different role in the company called WoW School. This is a programming school for children that we've started 6 or 7 years ago with Asha, who might be watching it. And we were teaching children how to code. And we are still doing it as online courses. They are still available. And we teach more than 10 or 12,000 already young children on how to code or how to start coding with tools like Scratch and different other technologies like that. I do a YouTube streams live on YouTube in my small niche community, which is around Umbraco CMS. And this show is called Umbra Coffee. It's on every Friday on 11:30 UK time on YouTube. We've done 256 episodes, if I'm correct. So 256 Fridays already. So yeah, and I'm also blogging. I used to blog, and now I'm not doing it. And I'm a YouTube wannabe at this channel, what you might have noticed by lack of activity on this channel yet. And you can also find me on all the social channels listed down below. And I intentionally do it less often recently about what I will be hopefully talking in the later phase of this chat. And yeah, that's a small amount of what I'm doing. I do not have time. That's what I want to mention. But I have time as my currency, and I use it very often as a currency. And that's why I also decided to dedicate this time to tell you and help you guys and all of you who responded to our survey already, especially mentioning the time efforts to this particular reason. So yeah, that's me.
Awesome. So you now can add also additional activity here, learning and teaching about technical personal brand.
Oh yeah, and I forgot to mention one small thing. I wrote a book as well, Konrad,
Yeah,
about
that's true.
social media for busy programmers, and that's a digital ebook that I wrote a couple. I wanted to say a couple of years ago, but I finished it probably a year ago as well. But it took a couple of years to write. But it's about social media and busy.
I want to ask you how you find the process of writing.
Yeah, that's for another webinar, another Q&A session probably. But also let us know if any of you already thought about writing a book or ebook. That would be something what we definitely can address, because me and Konrad were always talking about this and supporting each other in this struggle, because it's not an easy format. But I wrote a book. I also can share the link to it, and it was about social media for programmers. So that's a topic that I'm kind of more familiar with as well.
Awesome. So one of the questions in the survey was what stops you from more activities in building your personal brand? Because in general, we saw there was also a question: do you believe it was worth to build it? And there was a pretty big amount of answers to the right. Not everyone was fully convinced, but definitely there is a some kind of bias towards the idea that it make sense, but still what stops you? And the answers were very interesting, so we aggregated them, and definitely the winner is the time. So the lack of time, no time, various ways of expressing the same problem, that you, even if you feel that it makes sense, you have no time simply. Or have no idea how to organize it to have this time for this. The second one, which was pretty often, was laziness, which is similar, because it is something like, okay, I see that it even makes sense, maybe I would even find some time, but I'm too lazy. Which leads us to probably the third super important one. The most common was just the kind of why to bother. Why? What's the effort worth it? Whether is the effort worth it at all or not? Maybe it is not important. What's the purpose? So that was also, and those three are definitely the really winners here. That are appearing most frequently. You can relate to them on chat if you are feeling the same. And I must admit, I was having the same. If I was asked about this, was asked the same questions like 15 years ago, I would probably have exactly the same concerns, because they are not obvious. But there is also set of other, maybe more advanced but still really relevant things, like I'm not sure if I have anything to share, I don't have enough knowledge maybe, or imposter syndrome, that I don't feel that I'm already prepared and good enough to start sharing knowledge, because there are so many smarter people around, and why me should start doing that, right? So that's one of these. And most related to kind of being public person, maybe going out of your comfort zone. So the concerns about you need to be a kind of extrovert that loves to shine on stage, singing and other stuff like that, that some people simply are blocked by that. I definitely resonate with this. I would not believe myself 15 years ago that I will be speaking in hundreds of people, because I'm definitely introvert. I'm an ideal introvert.
Me too, and that's what I wanted to say, that I want to relate to this one as well, because if you will be asking me exactly 10, 15 years ago about why I'm not doing it, it would be because I don't feel confident to do it. And especially what is funny now, especially in English, what I will probably mention it as well later, because that was a huge barrier for me to start. To convince myself that it's worth it, and that was a very common answer as well, and we will of course relate to this in the questions. section.
This reminds me that if my English teacher from the high school would see me now or see me speaking in English at these conferences, probably he wouldn't believe. Maybe in any magical way he will see that. So and the very last one, which is also pretty important, kind of what should I do? Like a lack of any concrete finite directions, where to start, from where to start, how to do that, more practical implementation details. Like even if we are all above those concerns, we still don't always know how to do that simply. Probably where to start from. And those we will address. We are just showing them to show you that you can resonate with that, and moreover, we resonate with all this. And the questions were about that, so we will be just answering some concerns in a minute. But we also selected two most. My favorite one is this one, which is just a kind of a maybe negative in the, but I really I love that it is sincere. Like I am who I am, and branding is lying. And we selected this because we really believe it is not entirely true, but we understand this concern, right?
Yeah, and then maybe in relation to that, we also invite you to be completely honest about
Exactly.
your way of seeing even the term personal branding, because it's for many of you and for many of us inside of our branch and industry, it's something what already sounds like not natural for us to be doing it. But we hope to demystify some of this. And again, it's not something what will be for everyone. Nothing is for everyone. And that's why we decided to also share an honest and maybe not that positive feedback. And we'll be glad and grateful if you would have some of this, and especially with some arguments and maybe some examples from your life, from your surrounding, because that will help us again to relate to that, and maybe put it as well as an argument towards not doing it, or maybe doing it something different.
Exactly. I mean, branding in general, because I feel that this opinion comes not from the technical brands, but maybe from, pop singers and all this sometimes really lying, empty way of showing how happy you are and how awesome you are. But this is not what technical personal branding is. Personal branding for me personally is just for sharing your knowledge and sharing what you are learning to help other people. And there is no room for lying. If you don't know anything about the topic, you will be just not successful in building your personal brand. So I feel that in this particular region, there is really little margin for lying, for building your marketing yourself as an expert or whatever you would like to market yourself as. It will not be long-term game.
But final thing to this particular sentence from my side is like I had a real life example of person who was lying and was building the reach and the community around this person based on fake information and information gathered from the internet. And the really important thing is the purpose of it, because if we will all have purpose, that's okay. But it wasn't a purpose, and there was no goal as well in this one. And the person tried to apply for a job and didn't apply, it didn't get selected. And it turned out that everything what this person was making public about himself was a complete lie. And that's again, life will verify everything,
exactly.
right? So
edge cases they always will be. And now in times of AI, we can even build, super extra awesome personalities online. But still, as you said, probably that's not the goal that we should try to reach here.
And so we definitely don't want to be. We definitely don't want to be building and telling you about it.
Not good. Another one is really good one, also pretty sincere, that I get so much work that there is no need, because I can be really comfortable with the amount of income, and activities that I really don't feel like doing that. And that's very good, right? Because it is not for everyone, as you said. And if you are feeling really comfortable in what you are doing, maybe it's not for you, right? Maybe you can add something.
Yeah, definitely. I can add to that. I always reply to the people who ask me that why I need to do it if I don't feel a need for it at all. And it was like, you don't need to. That's the honest answer. And I think that our branch is very specific, and that's why I think that this topic is important from my perspective and for maybe some of you guys watching as well, because we go through burnouts constantly. I have burnouts every 6 months regularly. That's something what I expect to come in this particular month, and I know that it's coming, and I know it will be survived. And it helped me because on specific areas of my career or stages of the work routines, it was just helpful, and it was helpful to be on the other sides, on two sides, and we need to explore, and that's why I think we need to be exposed for two opportunities, and then analyze if it's something what interests us. If not, go further, do something what you like to doing, because it is all about doing something what we feel worth doing and something what we feel comfortable with, as you said, and that's what I wanted to add to this one. Now,
exactly. Yes. I would add here that there is the concept of boiling frogs, and it is really easy to feel comfortable for some time, but after a few years you discover that you have burnout, because you get used to what you are doing so much that in the end it drains your energy. So you should really be careful, but obviously, as you said, that needs to be a decision that is designed somehow. You need to be sure that you want to do that, or you can start just experimenting. So having said all that, we have some questions because we ask, what would you like to ask us about this topic? And the very first one is this time. So now we can come back to these concerns that people had. And those are specific questions from the survey. How do you find the time? What tools do you use? How much time do you spend specifically on personal branding? So time, and time again. And maybe you want to start, because I don't have time.
Yeah, I will find some time to answer this question now. I like this one because, again, we all have someone wiser than us said that we all have 24 hours during the day, and that's not changeable. We cannot buy time from anyone. No one sells time. And for me, it's always a game of priorities. And as I've mentioned on the introduction for the webinar, that I do not share a lot on social media recently, and it's by design, by decision, because I do a lot of other things behind the scenes. When I was doing a little bit less behind the scenes, and I wanted to share and push some of these activities, or I felt like I need to do it, I invested this time in this area, and I didn't do something else. And it's exactly like this. Both business-wise, family-wise, social media-wise, personal branding-wise, it's all about maybe not finding time, but neglecting something to find the time for something else. And it's not changing for me for years. I feel every day like I'm not accomplishing everything what I planned for myself to do or achieve, but I do something what is on top of my list. And my personal approach recently is what I've learned from the colleagues in Novicel. It's like I'm trying to time box myself, and I'm trying to plan a lot or a lot more than I planned in the past, because I'm a very disorganized person. That's what I want to also admit. And even though I have a lot of things to do, I also don't do a lot of things, and I make some people unhappy because of not finishing some of the stuff for what they are waiting for. But this is also sometimes a decision that I need to make to do something else instead. And I create a list every day from one to physical list on my notebook that I have in front of me every day. And I try to focus on the things that are on top of the list. And every day I do not get into the bottom of the list, unfortunately. But that's from the bottom lands on the top. And that's how I make time the day after, for example, for something else. When it comes to techniques or focus techniques, I really find tracking time effective for me. I don't know why, but if I see the ticker or something, what is counting time for me, and I see that the time is passing by, and I don't know, doing something what I shouldn't be doing maybe at this time, at this particular moment, that's something what motivated me. And maybe not the most easy to implement technique is kids. Kids make me more productive and make me more focused on doing more, because if they are, for example, in the kindergarten, I have the limited amount of time where I can be really focused. I can really be present for me and myself. And they are draining me that much at the end of the day that I do not sit down and do many things in the evenings lately. And this became an efficiency metric for me. And last but not least, to answer the second question, how much time do I spend on personal branding? It's always not enough for me, to be honest. I feel like I did it for half an hour daily when I was very active. And it was not too much, a very small amount of time. I was checking Twitter, replying back, creating an Instagram post, and trying to limit it to half an hour daily. And it was a huge effort and huge results after a month of doing it every day. So if I can answer this question to leave you with some answers, it's like any time that will be invested in this one, in the consistency and consistent application of this time will make the difference. And that's my approach to that. What about you, Konrad?
Well, I must admit that how much time do you spend? I will start from the second one because it is really hard to answer in the end. I'm also tracking time. I like tracking time because I want to know where I waste most of it. But it is really hard whether what you are doing now is really building your personal brand, or maybe it is just working on something, because they are really, many topics are just interleaved somehow. So when I'm discovering something or writing a project, then I can reuse it for a blog post, or I can then use it if I would have, because I don't have yet, on a YouTube channel or whatever. So, or tweet about it simply, and tweeting is super fast. So if I tweet 3 tweets per day, it will take me 3 minutes or 5 minutes, but in general, it is just an aggregation of, let's say, 1 day work during this week, because I have something to tweet about. So this is hard. The most difficult thing here is just not to get sunk into the social media. So that should be tracked for sure. That, for example, you designate 1 hour or half an hour per day on Twitter, and you don't start using Twitter and, just reading the timeline as your job, because you could fool yourself that, oh, I'm now building my personal brand because I'm reading Twitter. That's really something we should be care about. It is tempting to think like that, but in the end, I discovered myself that I'm not using social media in the end. Like, I'm not reading social media. I was doing that many years ago, but now I'm going there only to tweet something and eventually see whether there are any responses. So that's, and I feel that it is pretty healthy state. Like, I'm not procrastinating there. Yeah.
Yeah, I can second that, because that's what I started doing as well. On Instagram, for example, where everyone was thinking that I was very active back in the days when I was more active than I am recently. I used to just go there and see the responses to my activities, or reply to the activities that I wanted to reply to. And this is also something what you've mentioned about Twitter. Reading Twitter is not doing anything for you, maybe besides some increase of knowledge around specific areas, but it's impossible to be on top of everything what's happening there. Someone asked me in the past if it's possible, how to sort the Twitter feed to see really most important things. Maybe Elon will tweak it now somehow, but I didn't see any point in being on top of everything. And again, this is all the FOMO thing that is important to not feel like we need to be on top of everything, especially in our industry. It's impossible to know every JavaScript framework that went out, right? So how to know everything. But I used to limit this time to for information, and I stopped watching other activities, and I focus on my activity. But it's not a technique, I would say, but general being aware of what other people are doing. Maybe that's also related to the sentence that we've shared about this marketing stuff, because everyone is bombarding about this content, with the content, with everything. Do this, do that, top 5 tips to do A, B, C, D, and E. And it's, of course, seems like a very pushy marketing technique sometimes, but do we need to bother? I don't think so. If we'll focus on really what we can get out of activity out there and where we can invest this time, that will make sense. And I think treating time as a currency probably helped me the most, because if I started to think like, okay, my time is worth this and that, if I will really spend an hour reading someone else's tweets or the battles, and if it's not making me joy or entertainment, it doesn't make sense. If it's bringing me joy and entertainment, that's amazing. I had a 1 hour of fun, but it's not always like that, right? So that's the technique I would say.
We should be really careful here, because we can really easily lie ourselves that this is personal brand building, but it is not, being just there. And this is also, I believe, someone may perceive like, oh my God, you are so active. So if you are writing so much, you are just spending half a day there. But it is not like that, because if you are just being there for a second, tweet something, and then come back in 1 hour, for example, that's 1 hour of work that was just interleaved with some visits on Twitter.
Yeah. And again, not everything can be that simplified. Social media activity can be even automated, right? We know that there are tools, and I wrote a whole book about it, about tools and automations. But for example, I think we can also share some context on attending conferences, doing public speaking, preparing presentations. It takes a lot of time, and you know it, Konrad, right? It takes a lot of time. And again, if I can also reply to this particular question, it's like we need to know why we are doing it, and if it's something what might help us, and if it's something what is bringing us closer to the goal that we can maybe have somewhere. So then, if we will feel like this is the goal towards which we are going to, the time will be found, because we will drop something else what we would be doing normally if not this. So if I was traveling and I needed to make the presentation for tomorrow's talk somewhere, I was not sleeping. I was sleeping 1 hour or 2 hours, and I made this presentation. I did it because I needed to. There was no escape. And I must admit, I sometimes submitted talks to the conferences and attended some conferences and meetups when I was not ready for the presentations, and I've made it because I needed to. That was my motivation to find time for it. I'm a deadline-driven person, and this motivation always worked for me. So if I can wrap it up from my side, it's always something instead of something else. So if we will make it as a priority, and if we will feel like this is something what we want to do or need to do to accomplish something, the time will be found.
Right. And the topic of motivation is super important here. Why do you want to spend your time on this and not, for example, on regular work or just watching Netflix? That's why motivations are super important. Tools and focus techniques will come, but the motivation. And for me, it was like I was always having some goal in mind. Like when I started to do all that stuff, I was making myself some achievements as a milestones. What I would like to achieve, and why. And one of those was just to start to build my network, like because I was working in a specific company and it was good and it was fine, but I'm an introvert, so I wanted to build my better network, because everything is in the end networked. So if you are looking for a job and you know a lot of people, it is just much easier and nicer to find a good work. So motivation was, okay, so if I want to get some visibility, I need to start speaking, for example. And for example, motivation for sharing some knowledge, and which the final achievement at that time was getting MVP award, was the fact that I started to be noticed simply, and this time paid off me somehow, because obviously it is the time that you need to make instead of something else. And the thing is that probably doing this as a side project is just short-term game. Like I was there. I was trying to make a full-time job and also commit my evenings for doing that kind of stuff. But this is super difficult and super obviously draining your energy and your family relations and everything else. So what I thought is just try to merge it somehow and try to smuggle it into your regular work. Maybe your employer will be happy with the fact that you will go to the conference, and this is pretty often a thing. That they will want to build their brand as a company, and having you there will be just a good win-win situation. You will have time because you even could ask for some time for presentation, for building this presentation, because you are speaking on behalf of this your employee, right? So just trying to find some compromises, not doing it on your own, but simply try to convince your current employee, for example. And I know this from the second side, when we organize conference and we have a company that is a sponsor. There is this possibility that company may have a speaker on a conference, and they want to do that because it is building their brand. But there is this one small problem: who will be the volunteer to speak? And this, I'm imagining this whole panic inside the company: who will be dedicated to speak? And this is a huge opportunity, because if a company will have you as a speaker, they will just know they can do that, and you will be just doing this stuff for them in the time of your job. So win-win.
Exactly. And we will get back to this because we have a couple of questions that are related to this.
And probably we need to move on. So let's go to the second one, because the time this probably we haven't answered all the problems here, but maybe some. So the second thing, and this is the motivation part. Why it might help me? Why to bother? What's the return of investment? Why should I even do it? What we have achieved in the end because of that, because of giving some time to this particular activity. Have you achieved anything?
It depends. I'm still feeling like I'm on the middle of the road constantly. It's like, but of course, we can see people who are both in front of us and maybe behind us. And you've mentioned very interesting point about public speaking and being able or dedicated to do that. And I think in this case, it's one of the things in which we can step out and just be in 3% of our industry leaders who will be able to do that, for example. And it's not the common thing. You've been also organizing conference. It's not that easy to find speakers to every conference, even if you are opening it to the wider industry. But it's one of the things that might be relevant to do. Why it might help me? I said one thing earlier. It was to step out of the burnout circle, maybe to do something else. You've mentioned to do it as a part of your job. If your employee or your surrounding or yourself are allowing you to do that, that's amazing, because then you can just do something else. I was doing a lot of trainings as a part of my job. I was doing workshops and trainings with the groups of people at least once per month. And even though I'm working remotely for 15 years, I was not feeling like I'm sitting down in my house all the time, because I was once per month at least I was somewhere doing training or doing something like this. That was part of my job, and that was of course the personal branding activity that helped me to build a network. And this network is something what I wanted to mention, because that's exactly why I started doing it in the first place. I simply wanted to know people that might help me where I will need help, and then be able to help other people if they will get troubles or problems. And I think this is a very underestimated power of networking in our industry, because we are all, maybe not all, but there's a lot of us who are introverts, and I've been one. I developed a skill to step out and stand in front of the people or shake hands with them and discuss a lot with them. I still cannot do phone calls, for example. I don't know why, but I cannot do the phone calls. That's not my thing. But it helped me to really be to have a network and never attend a job interview, for example. That's a small thing, right? But I participated in 2 job interviews during my studies, and I failed on 2 of them. So not the good statistic in overall, but I built a huge network of people who knew what I can do because I proved it, and also I knew what they can do for me when I will need them. So I think that was also a huge return of investment in my case, because I exactly wanted to do that. And maybe last but not least, before I will hand it over to you and then start to remember some other things, I think the scalability of our activities. We've mentioned this time previously. Time is a currency, and we have all limited time to do things. And I think I realized one day in the past that if I will be selling my time, even though if it will be constantly raising the price for an hour, it will be still an hour. So it didn't give me the confidence that I will be able to do nothing and still earn, or still be able to provide the income. And it opened me an eyes to entrepreneurship and all the things that can be more scalable than our time. And that's also why I thought that maybe doing some of these activities, training, reusable materials, and things like that behind the scenes are worth doing, because that was my motivation. I needed to do less and earn more. And of course that was not easy at the beginning, but that's why I did it. Do you want to add something, Konrad? And I will think if I have anything else.
Oh yeah, I mean that's super huge topic. What's the return of investment? I feel everything I have achieved during last years is just a huge return of this investment. Like, okay, you know, maybe we all know that in IT industry is super nice. We can have a huge wages just doing almost nothing on all very regular work, but this all produces it's exposing us to burnouts, as we said. On the other hand, there is huge amount of interesting things that you can do if you only want to, and having your personal brand opens you to those possibilities. And you know, you can always, and you can probably write business applications for 40 years and you will be really happy because you will be earning money. And on the other hand, you may wish to write something more sophisticated. Maybe instead of writing this particular application, you would like to write the framework that is used by this application or whatever. So having personal brand opens you to possibilities simply. And I don't feel anything harmful here. Like, you can have a super personal brand and be a rock star in the same company for 20 years and occasionally give some talks, or you may just go a little bit further in this pretty popular cash flow quadrant, as it is called. So from being employed to being self-employed, and then to being maybe even a business owner, because you will be just building your possibilities. And out of the sudden, you will know that you are pretty proficient in a particular area and you know how to develop a product around it. And by having your personal brand, you will have really simpler path to promote it. Or maybe you will create a course that is the perfect use case of scalability, because it is really hard to earn more by our wage than by publishing course that is just passively sold all the time and can be bought by thousands of people if you are popular. And this is happening, right? People with personal brands are selling thousands of courses, and people without them are selling few of them, because no one believes they will be the ones that will deliver. They have no community, they have no visibility. So possibilities for me, like everything that I wrote, done during those 10 years ago, since 10 years, was about having more and more possibilities, knowing more people, knowing experts from my field, from Poland, then abroad, contacting the most important expert on the planet on this particular field. This all really helps. And if then you would like, there is a huge spectrum of possibilities. Like you can become an expert, work in a particular company, but having being in touch with top level experts from around the world, you can start to share some specific consultancies, like, hey, help me here because that's super specific thing and I'm stuck. And then you may be even contacting someone else. This is not only about going all around the world and promoting your book, for example, or selling courses or whatever. It is a whole spectrum of possibilities. For me, it really paid off because I like freedom and I have possibilities. Like I don't need to be employed. If I want to, I can be employed. No one will be laughing at me that I'm a full-time employed now again, but I can find consultancies. I can try to start a product. I can try to write a course or a book, or I may not, but I have at least chance to start with that. That's my goal for me.
Another book, Konrad? That would be interesting. But yeah, I think that's a good question, because you've mentioned opportunities, and that's exactly what I wanted to also second, because it might help us, but it won't. It doesn't need to, and it's not granted and given that it will help, because it needs to be motivated by something. And I've listed, when you were talking, two keywords, which was community and trust. And I think generally, I wanted to also, for example, relate back to your question, that if you say you want to be employed now, I don't think it would take a long for you right now to get a potential new employer, right? You would probably tweet, drop a LinkedIn message, and besides the ton of recruiters who might then contact you, you would have probably a couple of quality people, friends, or community members who would just ask you, maybe this is an opportunity for you, and you would be able to choose. So this freedom, flexibility, and I would say lack of boredom is why it might help you or us in general to do more than we are just asked for. Because maybe it's a sub question of this question. A lot of people ask me why you are doing it if you are not asked for it, right? That's also something. Why exactly you are doing it? And I never had an answer for it, right? I just felt like I need to do it to maybe feel more secure, more stable, and again, to not feel bored with what I was doing as a normal thing. So that's the answer that I wanted to just add.
Exactly. And this it is not only the financial aspect, right? It is like avoiding this burnout, and in general having fun out of it, at least a little. It is up to you how much time you want to dedicate, but still you can. And you have now some crazy ideas that you can implement, and why not just start to talk about it and you have some fun.
Yeah, maybe not that much related to personal branding, but when I moved to Pruszków 10 years ago, I didn't know anyone basically around there, and I saw the advertisement from Asia about looking for people who have technical knowledge, because she wanted to open a school for children. And I said, okay, I have some technical knowledge, and I like kids. I like teaching people about what I learned the day before, even though. And then we started teaching, and it was completely not money driven, completely not something what would speak be a business at then. And I said, yeah, it was exactly what I needed to then step out from the burnout. And I love to share my knowledge, even though it was something simple, stupid, or easy that I've done, because there is always someone who didn't do that, and who would be struggling to find the answer for this particular challenge or issue, and that was the motivation once again to do it without being asked to do it. And yeah, that's it.
Exactly. The very last sentence from my side. Teaching and sharing knowledge also, that may be a big driver for many of us. I'm a learner, I love learning, but learning for the sake of learning doesn't make sense. But if I know that I will share this, what I will learn, immediately I have a motivation. And believe me, nothing motivates you more than preparing a talk about something to the hundred or few hundreds of people. Then you need to learn about it really good, and you have this motivation and satisfaction, because it is like also just a very human thing probably to feel valuable. Okay, do we have covered it? May we move on?
Yeah, I think thanks for now. We can definitely move on.
This question would be another webinar, but we need to
yes, exactly. That's true.
Compensate. So the another set of questions is about implementation details, a little bit in technical speaking. So how do you do it? How do you gain confidence for public speaking? And the other questions, very specific ones. So we are not listing all of them, because that's something really fine-grained on various areas. But maybe we can try to answer shortly those three. So I will start maybe this now. How do you do it? I like doing this, so I'm just learning new things and sharing this knowledge. And this also allows me to help others for money or just for my satisfaction. So for me, my main driver is probably learning still. And I really love that. And I love helping people. So this is the motivation. And how do I do it? This is another story. But in general, this is also related to the third question. I was also, from the very beginning, I really tried to mix it with my work. So the very first employer, when I started to speak, it was agreed with them that it will help. And they obviously, I need to work to do my regular work, but still it was agreed, to the extent that I decided to go freelancing and dedicate more time for doing that. That's one of the obvious, not trivial decisions. If you like it, if you feel that you will benefit, you can go half time. I was for a time working 4 days per week, for example, and dedicating 1 day for this kind of activities, or doing those kind of activities of some of holidays, not all holidays, but it was kind of investment, seeing that it will, I hope so, benefit in future. So simply trying to balance it somehow with your regular work. The worst scenario may be that you are hiding this fact to your employee and having two words, two lives, like you public speaking and in company absolutely no one knows about that. And then there is this second life when you are the star on the stages and you do that. But because it doesn't make sense, try to combine it and gain the confidence for public speaking. That's the thing that is really interesting, because as we said, we are introverts, and I haven't imagined that I will be able to do that. I was totally always frozen by the fact that I will speak publicly in school, for example, or something. But someday I decided that I would like to do that simply, and I started to do that because I somehow felt internally that let's try. I feel that it may be fun, and I started slowly, like not starting in the company itself. Like you can always propose that you will prepare some internal talk to your colleagues in your company about specific project, and that will be the very first step. And then step after the step, you can prepare it not for your team, but maybe for all the .NET teams in your company, and then maybe you will go to the other city in your when there is your company also living and talking to new people that are still from your company, but you don't know it so much, and so on and so on, step by step simply. So definitely slow steps will help, and to help me a lot. And probably that's the end. Maybe you will add something.
Yeah, I really like the approach from your side. I want to approach the question maybe different at the beginning, but then I relate back to the house. I think that there are many ways, and you've touched the situation from the merging it from the work that you are doing for the employee or for your normal work, I would say, on a day basis. That's one thing, but we can do a lot of things, and that's always a challenge to choose what to do and how it can be done. For example, we can blog, we can write blogs, we can be on social medias and apply, reply, and interact with people on social medias. We can do vlogging, we can do YouTube, podcasting, live streaming. Public speaking is yet another
Open
option.
source.
Open source, yeah,
There are
hackathons.
super nice successful stories of people that build a brand by just being awesome open source contributors and having nice contracts because of that. This is a
Indeed.
perfectly introvert activity.
Indeed, but also you've mentioned courses, online courses, general teaching, workshops, all the activities like this, forums activities, people who are famous from being active on Stack Overflow, even though, right? All of us probably know John's Kit or everything what was done around his activity on Stack Overflow, and not only. And social media is one of the other things. So this is how we can do it, how we did it. As I said also initially, I do not blog recently at all. I loved to write blogs, but after writing a book, I stopped loving writing, and I just decided to be in front of the camera or be in front of the audio recording and then just talk about things. That's another escape, another way of doing it. But I also want to get back to the second angle to this one. So when I started working on personal brand, I didn't even know that I'm doing it. That was my thing. I was just doing it. I was just talking on meetups. I was just grabbing a beer with my friends and talking about what I've learned and what they've learned, and we were just asking each other's questions and try to master whatever we've been trying to do, despite if it was a mobile applications development, HTML, JavaScript, .NET, or whatever else. And when it comes to confidence in doing it, I still feel, even though I did a lot of talks already, I still feel like the best one is still yet to come. And I'm not 100% confident when I'm even entering the stage or leaving the stage after the great performance by the review from the other people. So it's all about in repetitions, I would say. So we need to start somewhere and also start small, not go to Boiling Frogs or any conference like this when there's a 300 people, or NDC conference where there is a live stream for thousands and a couple hundreds in front of you, and you are doing the first talk ever, because it won't be ideal, even though if you will prepare for it, ideal from your side. So start small, start from meetups, start from maybe live performances or recordings or webinars or anything like that, and then go bigger and bigger and gain this confidence, because it will come. Maybe it won't be ever 100% confidence level, but it will be growing. And how we do it, how we can do it, exactly by doing a lot of other activities outside of your coding job. Again, you can build packages, you can build software as a technical person as well, and sell this software, sell licenses. Open source is not always meaning that it needs to be free, because right now there is a lot of opportunities as well for the software creators to gain and earn from the activities around the open source ecosystem. So the only thing that I wanted to also say that there is a lot of house. There's a lot of ways. There's no perfect way, and I think also it will depend from the personality from the skill set, because not everyone will feel confident in front of the camera at all, right? And also not everyone will feel confident in writing because of, I don't know, dyslexia or whatever else, right? So choose the best way, choose any of the ways if you feel like you want to do something, and start by doing it. There's no other way, and then adjust and be agile and change often, and yeah, that's what I would say on how to approach that.
Exactly. Experiment. Two important things I would add. Definitely, personal brand is not connected strictly and required to have a public speaking activities. You can perfectly have this brand without it. So that's definitely not the message that we would like to have here. Although in the end, you may be even surprised that you will start to do that, because you will have so much things to share that you will just start to do that, as you said, even without knowing that you're doing that. And that's definitely not something that is only for extroverts. That's the myth. Introverts can be perfectly public speaking persons. This is only the matter how you approach this, how do you rest afterwards, but not whether it is not that you need to be extrovert to speak, really, believe me. And
one thing,
probably
Konrad,
one
I
of
want
the
to add
most
to the last.
Yep.
Sorry, go. I will just add it.
So I just wanted to say that probably one of the most best speakers are introverts. Like comedians are pretty often introverts, because this is only this pinpointed time frame when you need to speak, and then you can be very sad person that doesn't talk with anyone. This is a myth, right? And we have some connection issues.
Yeah, I lost you for a second. I don't know if I'm back. Hopefully I'm back. But I wanted to add to the last point about the company support, because that was something what I missed in my reply. Because my current company is very supportive in this case, and they exactly knew that I'm doing it, and that will be a benefit also for the company to be connected or recognized or present on whatever activities I will be doing as a single personal brand. And I also often see a lot of companies recently who reach out even to me to help them and help their employees to do more to help them as a brand for the company, or for the not single units from the teams, but the company in general. And I think it will be more and more common. That's why I really believe that whatever we are sharing with you guys today is something what might be important sooner or later in the ecosystem, because there were companies who were hiring people known from our industry to help them improve public speaking skills inside of their teams, to improve the writing or the blogging area of the company, and it becomes important for some of the companies, not for all of them. And that might be an interesting case for all of us, all of you, who might be in the position where we are looking for a change, to see if it's a company that will support this kind of activities, because they are maybe checking and helping for people to spread the knowledge and information via some channels supported by the company. Or if it's the company who is not present in the socials, not present on any events, not present anywhere basically, and they are just doing their work, which is completely fine, and then choose one or another to then align with our personal expectations and our personal goals. But in my case, it was usually supported very much by the companies I was working with, and I'm so glad that I was able to do that as a part of the job, and I'm still able to do that as a part of my job too.
Exactly. I have this personal bias that my observation is that the more company puts attention to this aspect, the more interesting it is itself. But it might be biased. It is
same here for me. So might be. Let us know, and let us know, people, if you're watching it right now or will be watching it later on. Let us know still if your company or the company, some companies that you observe are doing it and doing it well, and if it makes some kind of bias or opinion on your side if they are doing it, because that would be really interesting approach to know.
Okay, the very last one, because the time is ticking, the biggest one, at least in terms of the text. But in general, it is
Yep.
about the fact I'm not sure if I know anything, if I know enough to have something to say, whether I have enough experience, what knowledge should I need to have, what to make it more appealing just by posting glam selfies. How to select a specific niche. So in general, what I should be talking about. And especially this was returning pretty often, this concern or even a fear whether I have enough experience to talk about something. What is the threshold? How should I know that now I know enough and maybe yesterday I was not knowing enough? And the scene is yours. Maybe you can answer.
Yeah, I was scrolling through the table of contents of the publication that I did in the past, because I tried to approach it, and I tried to remember who was the person who shared it with me. It was probably Michał Sadowski, who might be known for some of you from Brand24. He shared a sentence or movie teaser which was called "Everything is a Remix." I don't know, Konrad, if you've seen this anywhere, but he was referring to his photos he was doing. And he's also known from doing an amazing pictures, and everyone was asking him when he learned it, and he shared an inspirations who made him to do the similar pictures himself. And I think in our industry, or in every industry, majority of the things were invented already. A lot of the things were done. Of course, we can right now take some media trends and say, okay, use ChatGPT to tell you what is important topic or what is a niche that you need to choose. But it's, again, it might be easy or not easy at the same point. We know that it's not that easy in most of the cases. And I think everyone suffers from this one, and if I can have an actionable or important sentence or tip to share, it would be train your ideas generator in your head. And that's what I was doing at some point daily. I was trying to drop 10 ideas every day for something, and if I didn't have ideas for ideas, the idea was to find out 10 ideas for the next 10 days. So that was exactly what I was doing, and it might be 10 ideas for posts, 10 things that I can share, 10 things what I learned recently, etc., etc. And that helps to find these ideas. And other than that, observe other people. That's what I found the most interesting for me, because even for the topic of personal branding within our industry, I try to find people who are doing it very well, who inspire me, who I admire. And there are some people who are doing it very nice inside of our industry. So observe them, see what they are posting, what they are sharing, what people are reacting to, and analyze it. Most of us and a lot of us inside of our industry are data driven. So see the data, check some other people's posts and activities, see what works, what has the most likes, retweets, interactions, even though they don't mean anything. Just to say, but it might be a driver for us to make some decisions and maybe share something similar or try to be inspired. And still, it's not all about glam selfies. On some platforms, it might help. And I can refer, for example, to Instagram in this case, when the pictures really matters. If it's a nice picture or if it's a picture with specific type of the content, it might get more traction. But really, inside of our communities and community and people still should matter the most for us. The content is the king. So the value of what we share, the personality behind it, and reality, in my case at least, was something what I found the most interesting for people who were reacting to whatever I was going to share, because it was true. It wasn't full of bullshit talking of how beautiful our industry is, but maybe some less interesting areas of that, maybe some bigger challenges, even though everyone was thinking that everything is perfectly fine everywhere where I was. So that's the initial, at least, input from my side. What would you add, Konrad, to that one from your side?
I like your data-driven approach. That may be a way of selecting your niche. Like if you are into many topics, maybe you can start to observe social media that you are targeting and really see what is most important, gets the most attention, and whatever. Maybe some expert you follow, like how she or he does it, so you may start to do similar things. So this data-driven approach, definitely, or hard-driven, I would say. Sometimes we simply know that sometimes something is the most interesting for us, no matter how crazy it is. Maybe it will be like, showing how to program using Lego bricks, or drawing comics about programming, or just learning the most crazy languages in the world, whatever. Just select your topic and try to stick it with for a moment, like jumping from the topic to topic. At the very beginning, probably it is not the very good idea, because you get out of focus. When you have this specific area, it may be specific, like front end. It is super broad, but at least you know that you are talking about front end, and now you can have your ideas about front end technologies, front end business, whatever. But you have this specific area in mind, and maybe that's something that gets you also better visibility, because people start see you as a person that simply talks about that topic, and that's better, especially at the beginning. Later on, when you are a super known rock star person, celebrity on Twitter, you can tweet about everything. We have examples of such computer scientists that tries to be really I even unfollowed some of them recently, because I really don't care what the particular computer scientist thinks about, the situation in United States, because it is not an authority for me about. But that's my decision. I'm not following some person. I'm following some other. In general, that's the very being focused. And the second thing is the super important myth to bust probably is that you don't need to be an expert. You can build a perfect technical brand around the topic that you are, for example, learning, and the whole journey of your learning. How I become front-end developer, how I become blockchain developer. That's the super important topics that people are really looking at. I would say even more than these old guys talking about yet another garbage collection algorithm and so on, because it is super narrow niche topic that only few people in the world are interested in. But if you will start to talk about your journey about something, it may be you are a .NET developer, but for example, you wanted to learn functional programming, and now you can start building your brand about .NET becoming .NET developer becomes functional, and now you have a brand about that. Your everyday struggles with learning functional programming, right? So it is really not important to be expert. And this is also just a explanation. For example, this Microsoft Valuable Award program that is given by Microsoft for people that are active in community has the similar confusion, that everyone having this title is an expert, but it is definitely not the goal of this award. This is a award for people that are active in community, sharing knowledge, helping people, even on the super novice level. But if you do valuable things, build some community maybe around you, or around some topic, you may be awarded by Microsoft most valuable award, or whatever it is called in your ecosystem. This is not, those type of visibility is not for experts only. I would say it is mostly not for experts, because people are seeking basic knowledge really much, and it is even harder for me if I will now start to mimic that I'm start to teach C#. It will be really hard because I'm not in the skin of a guy that is starting to learn C#. But if someone like that will start to blog about it or have nice videos about it, for me, some attention is granted.
I completely agree, and that's also what I wanted to add to that is to stay natural. And as you've mentioned about you not doing C# 101 course is exactly something what I wanted to mention, because there's everyone who was somewhere on the road, and there's always something to share until we are true with ourselves and people who are watching it. And if there will be any purpose in sharing this kind of content, because as you've mentioned, if I will share, someone said that on some of the past content, like if I'm sharing the picture of the coffee, what does it mean, right? What value it brings for anyone watching or following me in the internet at the moment? If there's a purpose of sharing the picture of coffee because it helps me to, I know, keep concentration level or my motivation level, etc., that makes more sense maybe, but still it needs to be thought about. And when it comes to the niche, again, research and then narrowing this niche might be the thing. And I really like what you said about the level of experience after finding out the community. The good example is Troy Hunt, for example, who shared pictures of his cars after being talking about security for years and years, right? And people started unfollowing him because of this one. And again, that's people's decision and his decision to share this kind of content. So we need to also be curious about people on the other side, think about them when we want to say something. And if we don't know what to say, ask people what they can hear from us. And that's what we also did with our survey, for example. And thanks to some of the content from you, the answers and these challenges and questions were possible to be addressed. So I wouldn't be thinking about the goal itself in finding a specific niche until we don't have it, but definitely try to build it around something what we feel confident with, or try to build it with the in confidence in the goal. Because as your example about learning something new, it's very, very popular now, right? 30 days in coding. 100 days of code, that was the challenge as well on Twitter. Very popular. People were sharing what they are learning for 100 days consistently. Things like that. Just being consistent, sharing the struggles, and being natural. I would say everyone struggles with something and every day. And I'm sure that some people from the IT security, some people from QA departments, some people from, I don't know, even content departments, they have their own struggles, and it might be, and it will be interesting for someone else who will be looking for the content like this. So just try, explore, gather the data, analyze, and improve. That's what I would say as an answer to starting somewhere with it. Yep.
Awesome. So that was the very last bunch of questions. The next one is questions. If you have any, I'm not seeing in the chat any questions, if I am seeing correctly. So unfortunately, you are losing this awesome opportunity to live ask us about those topics. But you can also always ask us on Twitter, for example. There is the link to the survey that we will link also in the description. If you haven't filled that, please do that, because we really love to have your feedback, the sincere feedback. How do you perceive the topics? What you are afraid of, what do you like to learn, and so on. Because as we said at the beginning, and as it was also clearly visible during this webinar, we like sharing knowledge, and we both are feeling that we are absolutely well known. We are not Scott Hanselman that have hundreds of thousands of followers on Twitter, but we feel confident enough with our experience to give some hints how you can start. and answer your concerns. So that's why we are here in various forms, in webinars like that, in free content, maybe probably in terms of also some courses that will be about those topics in various forms. Start to share this knowledge, right? So filling this survey is a huge help for us on this path that we are starting, right? Because it is yet another episode. From building personal brand, now we build something about personal brand. So inception.
Yeah, and as you've said, we need data. We need your input. People,
Exactly.
Even if you are watching it as a recording, if you would found it on YouTube years from now, let us know how you are building this and what are you struggling with. And I'm sure that we'll also reply to every comment that will be left on the video here. Make sure to reach out to us. And again, raise your concerns, questions, be honest, be drastic as well when it comes to this topic, because we need this kind of input. We need this motivation as well to do more. But for today, it was all what we have prepared and all what we wanted to address. There is no sale, nothing that we want to leave you with besides the form and survey that we linked to in this description of the video. And yeah, just as a final note, let us know what you think about it. And again, ensure and be sure that we will share more knowledge. And if you found it valuable for you and for anyone who might be interested in this kind of content, please share it, link it. It will be public on YouTube. It won't disappear, hopefully, if no one will delete it. So share it amongst your colleagues, friends, and people who might benefit from it. And if you have anyone in maybe your company or community who is doing something amazing in terms of building this personal brand or being recognized as a personal brand hero in your eyes, make us aware of this person, because we want to definitely highlight this kind of activity and maybe ask these people questions about what they did, how they approached that, and what we can learn from them as well, because we constantly learn too. So be sure to reach out to your colleagues and friends. And let us know if there will be anything what we can highlight and relate to from the perspective of technical personal brand amongst us all. Do you want to add anything else, Konrad, from your side?
No,
at the end?
well spoken. Nothing to add. We invite you to be there, observe this channel, because this is also, as you mentioned, one of the ideas, interviews with other people that are achieved something on that field for inspiration. Just subscribe, like people are showing this somehow.
Yeah,
I'm not
as
sure
proper
where it
YouTubers. We need to learn it for the next episode. But yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Stay with us, stay active, start doing something if you want to, and let us know about it to highlight it in the future content we'll be sharing with you. And thank you for being with us today. Thank you, Konrad, and see you hopefully soon with yet another discussion or content or highlight of technical personal brand amongst us all in the busy programmers world. So yeah, see you guys. Have a lovely rest of the week, everyone.